Welcome to Mind Shift Power Podcast, a show for teenagers and the adults who work with them, where we have raw and honest conversations. I'm your host, Fatima Bey, the Mind Shifter. And welcome. Today we have with us Krystle Hearley. She is the owner of Krystle Hearley Counseling. She's out of Albany, New York. She's a licensed mental health counselor, confidence and dating coach. But we're actually not here to talk about her titles. She's here to talk about her journey. Now, I've known Krystle for a while, and this is an audio podcast, and you might see a picture of her on the cover, but in person, she is absolutely gorgeous, and she's very, very pretty. She has a very nice body, a lot of the bodies that we all idolized as we were kids and were presented to us in magazines, she actually has for real. And she is a J-Lo level talented dancer to boot. Now, I'm mentioning those details because those are very relevant to what we're going to talk about today. But I want to ask this. I want you guys to think about this. With everything I just described, with his absolutely gorgeous, appealing to the eye woman, do you think that makes her confident? And we're going to talk about that today. So, Krystle, how are you doing today?
I'm doing much better now. Thank you for that. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. We should really hang out more often.
Now, I want you to tell us a little bit about what's your backstory? How did you grow up?
So, how did I grow up? I grew up in a small town, and relevant to our conversation, I did not feel pretty. I felt like the other girls were all prettier than me, that the boys wanted the other girls, that I thought that my thighs were tree trunks. I never wanted to wear shorts, but regardless of all that, it was a small high school. There was only 75 of us. So we all knew each other. We all knew everyone's business. And, I felt different. So that's really lonely. And mind you, this was before social media and all the online connections. So I remember in high school when we got instant messenger, and I would wait for boys to message me and stuff. So it's a part of everyone's life, wanting to feel attractive to the other sex or whoever we are attracted to.
Yeah. And I also want to mention this was before big booties were in.
That is so true.
Because girls got a booty. And
I was at a sleepover once, and I'll never forget these kinds of things. It's a great point that you make, because that's something that some people look for, would want to have. And I remember being at a sleepover, laying on my stomach, all the girls, we were watching a movie, and someone made a comment about how my butt stood out compared to everyone else. And it's now it's funny, but those things really stick with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you grew up in an era where it still wasn't. Now teenagers know people are getting BBLs and trying to make their butts all big. But
right.
Back then it was, you had a black girl booty and you're white. Oh my God. That kind of a thing. I mean, that was real.
It was.
And that did not help your self-esteem. Even though now it's coveted, but growing up for you, it wasn't something that you coveted or felt great about. I want you to answer this. You talked about it a little bit, but I want you to answer this a little bit more in depth, because I know there are a lot of girls out there right now who are just like you. I'm having this episode because there are a lot of girls out there who look amazing, and we look at them and they look appealing. And because they look appealing, we make an assumption that they're confident and that they know that they're as beautiful as they are physically. Did the fact that you were pretty make you confident?
Absolutely not. So it's interesting because we look at ourselves every single day. multiple times a day. And like when you don't see someone for a while, you look at them overall. Like we see each other so much that we stare at our imperfections. The imperfections
Mhm.
really stand out to us. So similar to most, that's what I focused on. Like, how could someone think that I'm pretty with this nose that has a bump in it? How could someone think that I'm pretty with when I can't wear the same size clothes as my friends? Like, I couldn't share clothes with my friends. Like, I'm different. So, how could I possibly be pretty?
Mhm. And I really hate that you thought that about yourself, and I hate that there's so many other girls out there right now that are thinking about themselves that way. Do you think that comparison was a part of that problem thought pattern?
Absolutely, but it was out of my awareness. I didn't know what I was doing, and
Mhm.
I do love that about maybe not specifically social, well, no, it's tough on social media because we can compare to so many people, but I do think that the fact that we compare is more common knowledge. Easier said than done, like, we still do
Right.
compare, but it's like maybe it's about noticing all of the ways that we compare. Like maybe we have this knowledge, like, yeah, people compare each other, ourselves to each other, but maybe it's about honing in on like every little thing that we do compare.
Mhm. We often when I was younger and even when you were younger, the comparisons that we would make would be to those in the magazines or those on
Oh, yeah.
TV. Now the comparisons are on social media instead because we're
Yeah.
not paying attention to TV and magazine anymore. I mean, let's just be real. We're paying attention to what's on social media. And I mean, at any age. I mean, the older you are, the more likely you might still be paying attention to TV and
Hmm.
magazines. But for anyone under 30, that's not where they're looking. It's for the most part on social media. And we're still comparing ourselves in ways that we shouldn't. Well, the listeners may have heard me say this before, and as you know, I make and design wedding gowns. I do alterations. I work with prom girls and brides. Something that I hate, I absolutely loathe, and I see it all the time, is the comparison
Mm.
that that some of these girls, brides, but especially prom girls, will compare themselves to something that isn't even freaking real.
Yeah.
They're like they don't like their bodies because they have a freaking uterus, so it's not flat. you know?
Right.
And it's like, it's not supposed to be. That's actually not normal. And they look at all of these, you know, when we grew up, they were airbrushed images, but now they're filters. We look at all
Right.
these filters that make us look like something we're not in reality, and they compare themselves, and that is a huge, huge mistake. It's just a giant, giant mistake. Would you agree?
I do agree. And it's important to mention that so in TV and magazines and stuff, there is definitely more variety represented,
Yes. Yeah.
but it's like the variety that we're still comfortable with. But on social
Mm,
media,
good point.
people get to pick exactly what they put on. So they only
Yeah.
pick w- what they think are will get positive feedback, or if a picture isn't perfect when they take it in reality, they get to change the picture before they post it. So we really are seeing the highlight reels. And I'm sorry, but even when people post to express sadness or like, this is the real me, I need to vent online, we'll see some of those posts sometimes.
Hmm.
That is still, they are sharing what they choose to share.
Yes, and some of those are just for attention. Some of
Yeah,
those are real,
absolutely.
and some of those are just for attention. And so we have to be mindful and careful when assuming that it's everything, because I'm a person where I share on social media, but you're not gonna know what's going on in my life at social media because I
Unless you
ain't
want us to. Yep.
right. I ain't putting all that out there. I ain't
Mhm.
crazy, so I'm not putting all that out there. You see what I want you to see. And I will
Exactly.
tell you about my victories, but I don't tell you about all my failures. And I definitely have some. And I definitely have some
Exactly.
shortcomings. but I'm not putting it out there. I will put it out there if I think it's going to help people and I'm willing to have a discussion about it. But you're not seeing all of me. Even though I'm extremely transparent, you're still not going to see all of me just because it's out of wisdom. Some things maybe I'm
Mhm.
still dealing with, not ready to talk about, and some things it's just not wise to put out there because somebody's going to pull it up 20 years from now and claim that you're something you're not because they do it to politicians all the time.
Yes.
Um, I want to talk about the something that we talked about off air, and what are the different kinds of confidences? Because we talked about the fact that there are different kinds of confidences, and that definitely relates to this conversation. So, explain to the audience what you were saying to me.
Yeah, and learning this concept, I think, was one of the biggest keys for having better confidence.
Mm,
Because when I was younger, I might have confidence in my ability to play softball, or I had confidence in, um, that's about it. No. No, in my ability to play the trumpet because I was first seat or something. And that's, again, outside validation. I felt confident in playing the trumpet because I had the title of first seat in the band. So those kinds of, or same with softball. I felt confident because I got feedback from my coach that, hey, you're doing good. I want you to start, kind of thing. So we have to remember we're getting all of those outside messages. So there's confidence in our abilities, like I just described, but then there's a whole nother level of confidence where we are confident in the human being that we are, that
hmm
I can take up space, that I can be here and I am enough. I am breathing, so I deserve good things to come to my life. Like, just that foundational, like, if I mess up, I am still confident in me as a human being. If
hmm
this doesn't go as planned, I'm still going to be okay. Like, that foundational doesn't have to be perfect. I don't have to be the best, and I'm still confident in myself. Does that make sense? Am I saying
Absolutely.
it? Okay.
Um, I want to dial back a little bit to what you said at first. The first kind of confidence in your ability, and related to exactly this conversation. We assume that confidence one is confidence two, and it's
Mm,
not. We assume that because we're confident in that we're pretty, we're confident in that we're a good singer, or some other very on the surface thing that we can see, that we assume that that means that that person is also confident in who they are, and that is absolutely not true. You really
yes.
have to get to know people to see whether or not they're actually confident, and there's always a million clues. um, and don't assume that because they're confident in their looks that they're confident in their character. They're confident in, as you say, who they are as a human being. And I know they're for the girls out there listening right now who were talking to you. You know you're pretty because everybody tells you that. You hear that from all the outside sources, but you still don't believe in yourself. I want you to listen to what Krystle is saying because she once was you too. And now she is more confident. Yeah, on a scale of 1 to 10, Krystle, 0 being no confidence at all, 10 being the absolute best confidence. You were once, I don't know what number, I'm going to say a 3 or 4.
Sure,
but
definitely.
but what number would you give yourself now in life?
It's a great question. Um, I love that question because it's not about having total confidence or
hmm
zero confidence. It is a scale. I would say I'm at like an 8.
It's progressive. And that's the thing is
Yeah.
we build ourselves. Do not ever expect that I built my confidence. I went from A to Z overnight. You can go to A to Z overnight, but then you got to wake up. So reality is it's a progress. Progress is a process, sorry. Progress is a process. And the fact that you went from 3, 4, whatever number you were to an 8 now is huge. And for girls listening right now, the fact that you might feel like you're a 3 or 4, don't worry about getting to a 10, get to a 5.
Love it.
When you get
Yes.
to a 5, keep doing the things that helped you get from 4 to 5 so that you can get to a 6.
I
et
completely
cetera. Keep
agree.
moving on. And there are a lot of girls out there right now. I want you to know, and Krystle wants you to know, you're not alone. You're not alone. You know, just because people build you up because you're a good singer. We see it in famous people all the time.
Yeah.
People become famous because they can rap, they can sing, they can dance, they can play an instrument, they can act, and they become award winning whatever. They can write whatever their talents are, and they become award winning and they become super famous. But if we really sit down and listen to their hearts, they have a confidence level of a 3, because those things are just things, they're stuff.
Yes.
They matter, but they're not necessarily who you are as a person. And what do you have to say to the girls out there right now who are where you were? They get accolades, they get praise because they look good, they're confident maybe in certain areas, but at their heart of their heart, they know they do not believe in themselves. What do you say to them?
Oof, that's a deep question. So I would say that one, you do have talent. That's great. Like, enjoy that. Um, but the reason we feel confident in that talent is because of external validation. People have told us that
Mm-hmm.
we're good singers, or people have told us that we're pretty. So to acknowledge that, the first step is sometimes even saying, so and so said that I'm pretty. In my head, like, words are important. So instead of saying, like, I'm pretty because so and so thinks I'm pretty, sitting with that and being like, do I believe I'm pretty? The confidence comes
Mm-hmm.
from when I believe that I'm pretty, when I believe that I'm a, a good enough singer for the level of singing ability that I want to be. And really embracing it from what I believe about myself.
And I completely agree. But when that belief is low, when that belief is bad, when that belief is not that I have any value other than my nice ass, what can they do?
That is a deep question. I believe that it comes down to how we talk to ourselves. It comes
Mm.
down to words.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be awesome at everything. Like, it's human nature to want to be beautiful, talented, successful, lots of friends, great clothes, the list goes on and on. But in reality, you know, we don't know, we're not going to have all of those things. And saying to ourselves, being okay with, okay, like your scale question, I love that. On a scale of 1 to 10, how good of a singer do I think I am? If it's a 3, that doesn't define me. I, for the record, am a horrendous singer. Nobody wants to hear me sing. But I am still a confident person because I've decided I'm not pursuing singing as a profession. I don't
Mm-hmm.
need to be a good singer. I
Mm-hmm.
acknowledge that I'm not a good singer, and singing is only one part of me. The clothes that I wear is only one part of me. My
Right.
weight is only one part of
Mm-hmm.
me. My success or how the family that I'm attached to is only one part of me. So finding coming to peace, if I don't feel so great about something, either I can take steps to improve it, or I can accept that about myself and put my energy elsewhere.
I'm going to piggyback off of what you just said because I think what you said is very clear, precise, and real. And I agree. I think sometimes a way out of that is to make a decision that you're going, and it's a decision and it's a process. It's not
Mm.
instantaneous. So please understand, if you're listening, do not expect to have instantaneous results no matter what you do or who you talk to. Expect to have results as you take advice and implement it. little by little.
Yes.
So make a decision, young woman or young man, because the male version of this looks a little different, but guys go through this too. Um, Especially people who play sports, they go through it the most actually. But
I
they
hear
don't
that.
talk about it as much because they have to be manly and not, not admit it. But um, focus on what gifts you do have. What talents do you have? Discover those because those will help you to understand the value that you have. Stop comparing yourself to something you're not. A bird should not compare itself to an elephant. That's just dumb. They ain't the same.
Amen.
Don't compare yourself to me. You're not me. You are you. And, I can sing, but I ain't Beyonce. So I'm not comparing myself to Beyonce. I'm
Right.
not trying to make a career out of singing. I will use singing in other things that I do, but it's not a career choice for me or a desire. So why would I want to compare my voice against someone who's a professional singer and does it for a living? For what? All that's going to do is put me down and make me feel bad about myself, bring me to misery, and not help me to move forward in the beautiful gifts that I do have.
I love
So,
that. And yeah, it's like, again, just circling back to the words that we use.
yes,
I I think I'm a decent singer, but I'm no Beyonce. Like, we're judging ourselves when we say things like that.
yes.
And that's to say I'm a decent singer for you. I'm a great singer. I'm not pursuing a professional career in singing. So we don't even need to follow up with like, but I'm no Beyonce. Like I am what I am and I use it the way I use it.
Yeah, but you know what? Beyonce ain't me either.
Exactly.
Because we have different gifts and talents. You know what I mean? I
Yes.
don't know Beyonce personally. Maybe she is a good coach to other people. I don't know her to know that. But either way, even if she is, she still ain't Fatima. And that's the level of confidence that we all need to have within ourselves to
Mhm.
recognize, okay, instead of focusing on what you don't have, and which is what you do when you compare yourself to other people, why are you comparing yourself to someone who ain't even you, don't even have the same gift or the same calling on their life or the same purpose as you? What is your purpose? Compare yourself to that. What are your gifts? Develop those because that's where you're going to find your happiness. And you know and also I also want to talk to this point. When we put all of our confidence in the wrong thing, as I'm going to call it confidence number one that you talked about, confidence in a gift or an ability or a look, which is all in the same bowl. Um, when we have confidence in that and we use confidence number one as confidence number two, we allow those things to define us and indicate our value. What happens when that thing drops? What happens if you're the best supermodel in the world and you get in an accident and you are permanently disfigured? Who are you then? We
Yes.
do this to ourselves. Boys, guys, do this when it comes to sports. I am the best quarterback that the NFL has ever seen or the NFL is about to see. I'm the best basketball player that the NBA is about to see. And you break your leg and you get an injury. You can't do that anymore. Who are you?
Yes.
And if we properly understand who we are outside of our abilities and gifts, that's where your real confidence or lack thereof lies. So discover that, young men and young women. Discover that. And you can begin to build your confidence. And again, confidence, just like Krystle was saying, it's built, right? It's not
Yes.
something that just, I'm confident now because I popped a pill or listened to one message and presto changeo. It just doesn't work like that. Progress is a process. And I just wanted to add that in there because I think it's so important to note that this is one of the reasons we see famous people do some of the things they do. They have all the money and all the fame in the world, but yet we watch them fall because they were standing on straws instead of solid ground. You know,
Exactly.
and you're being confident in your ability and your capabilities is sand. It's movable. It's not solid ground. But being confident in who you are is is solid ground. Now, I will tell you a little bit about myself. Unlike Krystle, I didn't grow up, really, societal pretty. um, by societal standards, and I actually felt very ugly and stupid and fat and dumb. Like that's really how I saw myself. I too am now at a confidence level of 8. I still think I have a couple more points to go. And people look at me and they're like, "Oh, she's so strong and confident." Yeah, but y'all don't know what hell I went through to get there. I
Yes.
am now, but y'all don't know what hell I went through to get there. You don't know how I used to see myself. And that's something that I always saw in Krystle, even when now I've known Krystle for years. We met through salsa dancing. So that's why I know that she's a phenomenal dancer and why I mentioned that in the beginning. I, always saw that she was pretty and everything, but I also saw a little bit of myself in her, which Krystle and I have talked about. I saw that lack of confidence and didn't understand at the time why. I'm like, does she not see how awesome she is? And I'm not just talking about her look. She's actually an awesome person too. So I was just like, why don't she see what I see? But I don't care who you are, and I don't care how anybody sees us. What matters is how we see ourselves. You know? How do you see yourself? As Krystle mentioned earlier, how do you see yourself? Because at the end of the day, that's your foundation. That's what when things go wrong in your life, that's what's going to pop up or lay you down, depending on where you are, right?
Yes.
Was there anything else? I know I got a little preachy there, but I can't help it. I'm very passionate about the subject, um, especially when it comes to young women, because I see it so often and I see how really, really relevant this is. And for all of you listening, just because you see someone on social media who's doing well and gets lots of likes, please don't assume that their confidence is where it should be. I can promise you, a lot of times it's not.
Yes,
A
I'd
lot of
like
times
to
it's not.
second that too.
A lot of times it's not. And and I'm also mentioning that because sometimes people tend to be judgmental. When they're like, this person is famous and they're beautiful and they have all this money, why the hell are they acting like that? Because they have the
Mm,
same issue that you do. The difference is that they're on a pedestal as they go
yes.
through it. you know? Um, yeah. Did you have anything else you wanted to add?
I think it's helpful to add to speaking to social media is that people can be very mean
Yeah.
on social media. People can be very mean in life in general. And I think it comes out more in social media
Yeah.
because they're not face to face with you.
Mm-hmm.
But that their actions reflect on them. They're acting the way they're acting because of the way they feel about themselves.
Yep.
It has nothing to do with you.
Can you say that
If a
again?
person, yes, yes, when a person judges you, what the way that they are acting speaks to who they are. It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
If they're judging you, they judge everyone.
Yep. It has not, and they probably judge themselves too harshly, too,
Yes.
because that used to be me. But I know it's not just me. I see it all the time. Yes, I completely agree. Don't allow other people to put you down. And they might put you down, but you don't have to stay there.
Exactly.
Cuz that has to do with them and not you. And just recognize that.
Yeah, when someone says something like that I find to be rude to me, or they have a short temper with me, or they put down something I do, I like to be like, huh, I wonder what's going on in their world. Or,
Yep.
you know,
Mhm. There's a million different reasons. Some of it has to do with their choices and some of it has to do with how they're raised, usually a
yeah.
combination thereof. But there's a million different reasons, which is another conversation. But yeah, I think that was a very key point to point out. So Krystle, for all of you listening, Krystle is an excellent therapist. She I actually recommend her on my website because, and I'm very, very slow to recommend people. There's not a lot of people on that page, but she's one of the therapists that I recommend because she's honest. You can be honest with her, and she's not going to judge you, and she'll be honest with you and tell you what she sees and what she thinks, and listen to what you have to say, which is part of what makes a good therapist. So if you're listening and you are a girl that you're someone that recognizes what she's saying and you can, identify with it, she might be a good person for you to talk to. So, Krystle, how can they find you?
I like to keep it simple, and they can just text me. My phone number is 518 212 7417.
Yes. And that number will also be in the show notes of this episode, as well as her website if you want to go to that as well. But I love the fact that she just said, "Give my phone number. Go right directly to her," and
Yes.
she'll reply. Just please don't text her at 2 o'clock in the morning. Please use common sense. Um, but thank you, Krystle, for coming on. It's been a pleasure having you on, and I really thank you for being so open and honest about your reality, your struggles, and your journey. And I'm hoping that this episode helps at least one person. If so, it's worth it just for that.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. And I love talking to you about all these things. So I hope to talk soon.
And now for a mind shifting moment. If you're listening today and we were talking about you're one of those people where you have great looks, gifts, talents, money, fame, any of that. If that's you, I want you to know that you're not being whiny. You're not being a big baby when you want more than that. You're actually being a normal human being. And I want you to know that you're not alone in how you feel. There are other people out there who actually see and understand you. It is okay to admit that you need more than that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But I also want you to know it's important that you seek that confidence number 2 that we talked about in this episode. That real, deep, personal self-confidence that has nothing to do with your gifts, your money, your wealth, your looks, but is just you. Work on that because that is where your strength is. That is where you really are. Your money, your shape, your look, your fame, that might be what you are, but that's not who you are. Discover who you are so that you can have the real confidence that you need so that no matter what's going on in life and no matter what life throws you, you know who you are, you can handle it better. And I just want you to put your arms around yourself right now and take a big hug from me. If I could physically hug you right now, I would. You matter. Beyond your talents, your gifts, your fame, you matter. Thank you for listening to Mindshift Power Podcast. Please like and subscribe to my YouTube channel at The Mind Shifter. If you have any comments, topic suggestions, or would like to be a guest on the show, please visit fatimabay.com/podcast. Remember, there's power in shifting your thinking. Tune in for next week.